Have you ever stood in front of a tangled, overgrown rose bush, shears in hand, absolutely terrified you're going to make the wrong cut and ruin the whole plant? You are definitely not alone. Let's dive right into this complete explainer on mastering the art of rose pruning. We're taking you from pruning anxiety to absolute confidence right now.
Here's a crazy fact for you. Pruning in the fall can actually kill your roses. I know, a lot of folks think autumn is just general yard cleanup time, but making cuts then actually stimulates tender, new growth that just won't survive the winter frost. And worse, it invites lethal pathogens straight into your precious plants by disrupting their natural dormancy signals. It is literally one of the most common mistakes out there. But hey, don't worry, we're going to fix all that today.
So, here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll hit the science of pruning, timing, and the forsythia rule, essential tools and sanitation, a step-by-step pruning guide, how to handle different rose types, and we'll wrap up with some expert tips.
All right, part 1, the science of pruning. It's all about understanding the botanical why before we get into the how.
Now, here's a really cool piece of plant biology. Roses actually store their vital carbohydrates in their lower canes and roots, not up in their leaves. So strategic pruning is literally directing that stored energy into massive, healthy new blooms. It's like rerouting traffic. It also opens up the center of the plant to improve airflow, which is absolutely crucial for preventing nasty fungal infections like Botrytis cinerea. And whenever you approach a bush, just remember the foundational 3D rule. Your very first step is always to eliminate the dead, damaged, and diseased wood. Doing that naturally controls the structural shape and density while keeping the whole plant breathing and healthy.
Moving right along to Section 2, Timing and the Forsythia Rule, or how we align with nature's calendar.
To really nail the timing, we need to talk about phenology. Phenology is the study of periodic plant and animal life cycles. It gives us a universal indicator for when winter dormancy is actually ending by tracking biological events in the natural world. Look, spring may come early one year and late the next, right? The garden simply doesn't pace itself to our wall calendars.
And that brings us to a really fantastic biological indicator known as the Forsythia Rule. When you see those bright yellow Forsythia shrubs pop in your specific neighborhood, that is your ultimate green light. It tells you the temperatures are finally right for a heavy, late winter prune, and you won't risk sudden freeze damage to your fresh cuts. But there is one absolutely vital exception to that late winter rule. As Monty Don says, if it flowers before June, do not prune. For roses that only bloom once a year on old wood, you've got to wait until after they finish flowering in the summer. If you were to go in and prune them in early spring, you'd accidentally be snipping off this year's entire floral display. Total heartbreak.
All right, Section 3, essential tools and sanitation. Let's make sure you're properly equipped for success.
When you're out there, always choose bypass pruners for living stems up to about ½ inch thick. Bypass blades pass each other just like a pair of scissors, creating a sharp, clean wound that heals up super quickly. You really want to avoid anvil pruners for this specific job. Why? Because the blade comes down on a flat surface, which actually crushes the stem. That slows the plant's healing process down and literally opens the door for pests and opportunistic diseases to move right in.
And listen, sanitation is simply non-negotiable. Wiping your blades between plants acts exactly like a surgeon sterilizing a scalpel before an operation. You can use 70% isopropyl rubbing alcohol or a 10% bleach solution. Doing this stops the transmission of highly contagious pathogens, like black spot, from jumping from one bush to another. Just make sure to avoid any household cleaners with quaternary ammonium, because those can leave a really toxic residue right on the plant tissue.
On to Section 4, our step-by-step pruning guide for mastering the perfect cut.
So this 3-step process right here is pretty much the golden rule of rose pruning. First up, find yourself an outward-facing bud. Second, make your cut about 1/4 inch above it. And third, angle that cut at 45 degrees, sloping downward and away from the bud itself. This specific technique ensures that when it rains, water easily sheds right off the wound instead of pooling on it, and it directs the new growth exactly where you want it.
And forcing the plant to grow away from its center is exactly why we hunt for those outward-facing buds. If you let branches grow inward, they're going to rub against each other, causing physical damage. Plus, they trap moisture, which is basically an engraved invitation for rot and fungal issues. A nice open center means a healthy, breathable, thriving plant.
You also really want to steer clear of these critical mechanical errors.
Cutting straight across, that stops water from running off. Leaving a long stub, that just creates dead wood that invites rapid dieback. Cutting too close damages the delicate new bud you're actually trying to promote. And honestly, perhaps most importantly, leaving your pruned, diseased debris sitting on the ground acts as a literal incubator for fungal spores. Seriously, bag it up and throw it away. Keep it clean out there.
Section 5. Pruning different rose types. It's time to customize your approach.
Because not all roses are created equal, you've got to match your technique to the specific variety you're growing. Your classic shrub and bush roses, they love a hard reset right down to ankle or knee height in late winter to encourage really vigorous new shoots. Climbing roses, on the other hand, require you to maintain their main framework, so you're just reducing the side shoots that have already flowered during winter. And then you have ramblers. They're highly vigorous and need to be tamed right after they finish their summer show. For those, you'll want to remove about a third of the oldest stems right down to the base in late summer or fall.
And finally, Section 6. Expert tips and conclusion to secure those thriving blooms.
33%. Memorize that number, because it's the magic maximum threshold. You should never remove more than 33%, or 1/3, of a rose's live growth in a single session. If you get a little too scissor-happy and chop away more than that, you run a huge risk of severely depleting the vital starch reserves stored down in its roots. Depleting those starches delays your blooming and totally weakens the overall immunity of the shrub.
Keep these final benchmarks in your back pocket, too. As a rule of thumb, stems generally need to be thicker than a pencil to actually support the weight of a heavy bloom. You should absolutely strip away those exhausted, gray, peeling canes to make way for fresh, productive green growth. Also, during the active season, deadhead your spent blooms down to the first leaflet to redirect all that good energy into new flowers. Oh, and one more thing. Water the plant deeply immediately after you're done pruning. Remember, pruning is basically a stressful surgical procedure for your rose.
Now, just a quick disclaimer before you grab your gloves. Gardening practices vary, so keep in mind that your unique USDA hardiness zone, local microclimates, and the specific varieties you're growing might require some slight adjustments to these techniques. Always observe how your plants react and adapt accordingly. It's a partnership after all.
So, armed with the science of the perfect cut, which rose in your garden are you going to confidently transform first? Now that you've conquered that pruning anxiety and understand the botanical why behind every single snip, it's time to step outside. Grab those clean, sharp bypass pruners, hunt for that outward-facing bud, and get ready to cultivate your most breathtaking blooms yet. Get out there and have some fun with it.